All right, so you said your next one's controversial?
Yeah. So number 15, Alex, what do you think?
Because I'm looking at my list too. I'm gonna take a wild guess. Doctor No,
Nope.
Majesties.
I'm sorry to break your heart, Alex.
Oh, you okay? That's it. Out of the family. 25 to life in jail. That's it.
15,
I'm walking away. Is the world?
15, 15 is the world
I
is
hate.
not.
I hate it. Okay, if Tomorrow Never Dies is number one, that's it. We're like, it's over. It's over.
You
Okay,
can't be mad at me for putting this one at 15 when Tomorrow Never Dies is like 20 something on your list. It's
not
ridiculous.
my fault. I'm bored by that movie.
Here we go. So to avoid turning this into movie rumble, Tomorrow Never
Part
Dies
two.
versus World Sun.
Again, part two.
This is like part 5. We argue about these movies like every video we're
This
in.
is like we'll be arguing about Tomorrow Never Dies and The World's Not Enough till we're like 80. If there's two things Pat and I agree on, GoldenEye's the best Brosnan Bond movie. Die Another Day is the worst one.
Yeah. Yeah, notoriously, Alex and I debate Tomorrow Never Dies versus World's Not Enough all the time. All the time. My brother often joins in the conversation on my side. um, World's Not Enough. Okay. I grew up with the Brosnan ones. So did Alex. The World's Not Enough also is special to me because it is the first Bond movie I saw in theaters as a kid. I was like 5 years old, and my parents took me to World's Not Enough with my
Then why
brother
isn't it higher?
because I'm not blinded by nostalgia. um, I used to enjoy it more than I do now. It has gone down a lot over the years for a variety of reasons. I just don't think it works that well.
I
I
should
think
have worn my World's Not Enough shirt.
it's a fine Bond movie. I think Pierce gives arguably his best performance in World's Not Enough.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
great. It has positives. Electra King is a phenomenal main bad guy in a Bond movie, and Renard is all right as a henchman. He's not that.
I love them both.
He's
I love them both.
Renard kind of wastes Robert Carlyle's talent, if I'm being honest. Um, and yeah, when it comes down to it, I just don't think the plot of this one is all that interesting. I think it's very kind of boring.
It's the opposite effect for me with this and Tomorrow Never Dies. Like, I understand Tomorrow Never Dies' relevancy and how it's way ahead of its time and we're still dealing with that shit today. But, like, there's just something about Bond going up against a tech mogul where I'm just like, I'm bored right now. Like, whereas you're doing something that feels like something that could have been done in the 60s Bond movies, I'm like, I find that more interesting.
I think it's been done to death because it has been in movies since the 60s.
But that's my thing, though. I'm like,
I'm gonna try not to bring up Tomorrow Never Dies in this. I want to look at World's Not Enough.
I'm trying. I'm trying not to either, but like, you know, I'm just looking at it as like, I like which one for me had the more plot, I guess, you know. At least in my opinion. But
I don't want to get into movie rumble. I
I'm
don't
trying
want
to keep Tomorrow Never Dies out of it.
to. World's Not Enough. I just don't think the oil and all of that is that interesting. I think Electra's plot, as much as I enjoy her character, Sophie Marceau is fantastic as both a victim and as like the bad girl. But I just don't. I think it boils down to simply, oh, I don't like my dad, and I think that's late. I think that's late.
I've always here's my thing, and I think that, and this is going to be controversial. I know you're going to completely disagree. Here's my thing with The World Is Not Enough, which is why I like it so much. Like, did she have those thoughts before she was kidnapped, or was it because she was kidnapped? Like, was that Renard's whole plan? Like, did Renard know that like her father was this giant oil?
We knew that because he was holding her for ransom.
But was his whole plan be like, I'm gonna kidnap her and try and make her get Stockholm?
You're giving Renard too much credit. The movie explicitly says she used him, and he realized. Like Bond is like, dude, you got used, and he's like, no, but like he was, like he's the henchman, he's the idiot, he's like Bond. he's Elektra's manipulation. Like she shows through Renard how good she is at getting men to do what she wants them to do, and Bond
Well,
almost
this was
fell
a
for
Me
it.
Too movie before Me Too happened.
Elektra, I think even people regarding Renard as the main villain, even though the movie makes pretty obvious that it's Elektra, is an insult to Elektra's intelligence and effectiveness. That's why she's so good. The marketing obviously was going to show Renard as the bad guy because that's the twist of the movie. The problem I have with this movie too is that it's too obvious of a twist. Sophie Marceau is so. I sent you a video when I was rewatching this movie of just Bond holding Renard at gunpoint, and he goes, what's the worth living if you don't feel alive or whatever? And Bond goes, the camera zooms in on Bond's face, the music goes, and he goes, huh?
But
It's like so.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that.
It's just, if you're gonna do a twist, hide it well. Don't make it so obvious where she's like, oh yes, I'm obviously the bad girl from the get-go, and let's go skiing to look at the connections to my rig or whatever. Like, I don't know. I love the opening of this movie. I think the pre-credit sequence is phenomenal. I think it's so good. I think it really peaks the movie though, because it makes you think this movie's gonna keep up that energy, and it doesn't.
But see, like I like all the action in this. Like I understand like the complaints with maybe with the ski chase where it's like it doesn't feel like I've seen people say that's probably second unit work. And but like I still enjoy it for what it is, you know? I mean, I don't think there's a single, except for the one in the tunnel, maybe, and you know the fight at the end with Renard. I mean, that how did they get around that set? You know, I feel bad for them. Like, how did they maneuver? But like, other than that, like, I really like the action in this movie.
I don't hate the action like I do with like Spectre.
Yeah.
Or like Quantum of Solace. It's not like ruined by editing like Quantum of Solace or something. And but despite how Alex is furious with me that this is at number 15. It's at number 15. I enjoy World's Not Enough.
See, there was like a part of me that was like hoping it was like 12 or 13, you know?
It was up until very recently.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean,
I haven't brought up my biggest issue with the movie.
Is that Denise Richards?
Obviously.
I don't think
Christmas Jones is atrocious.
I don't think
atrocious.
I don't think necessarily for me it's Christmas Jones. I think it's more Denise Richards.
I highly disagree. I think it's both. I think she was miscast.
Like,
I think Christmas is bland.
Like I agree, she's a bland Bond girl, but
She's a follow-up to Michelle Yeoh. Really?
No,
that's who we're following up.
No, like, well, yeah, exactly, but see, like, I don't say she's better than Michelle Yeoh. I don't say she's better than Wei Lin. Like, honestly though, like, I like Jinx less.
Yeah, here's my thing with Christmas.
Because I feel like they knew in The World's Not Enough. They're like, okay, like the casting wasn't that high for Christmas Jones anyway. They're like, we're going after Tiffany Amber Thiessen here, okay? So it's like,
yeah, which also is a mistake. Why is that a defense?
So they're like, we don't even have to try with the character. The problem with Jinx is they try, and the character is horrendous.
But why aren't they trying with Christmas? Why is the movie not trying?
But
if you're gonna do a movie that has a great villain, a great woman in it, like Sophie Marceau's Elektra, and it makes Christmas look even worse because you literally have this pretty good character over here, and then you have this awful miscast person who just literally dressed like Tomb Raider and like unzipping her hazmat suit.
Dude, I used to think I used to go up to my brother and be like, "Hey, did Denise Richards ever play Lara Croft?" I was like, before Angelina Jolie.
Every line she says feels not real. It feels terrible. And here's my biggest problem, and why World's Not Enough is so much lower for me. Bond girls are important. The female characters are important to the Bond movies. And if you have a main Bond girl that is really, really bad and dragging down the movie, that's like a fatal mistake. Like if you're at Bond, every scene with her is ruined because she's there. Like, it's just, like the oil, we're gonna go into the rigs and we're gonna like do the whole, we have to get the bomb, and she's like, we gotta shut off the reactor. Like it's just, she's not believable, which is fine. A lot of these castings aren't believable. It doesn't have to be believable, but you have to at least be good, and you have to not be distracting. Like, and she's very distracting. She comes up, or are you just looking for a glimmer? Like, what? And I know you're gonna disagree with me, Alex, because this was a thought. I've had a few updated thoughts in this movie after the
I know.
M.
Yeah, the M thing.
People love that M is used more in this movie. I love more Judi Dench. Dench is
Great.
phenomenal.
Great.
She should have been the main person instead of Denise Richards, but she's great. The problem I have with M in this movie is they treat her like an idiot.
But see,
and I do not like Judi Dench being treated like an idiot. He is a bureaucrat in this
movie.
movie.
That would not have crossed my mind until you brought it up. So now every time I watch The World's Not Enough, I'm gonna be like, write down notes on Judi Dench being an idiot in this movie. Thanks a lot, Pat.
Dude, she's literally like, oh, what's his name? What's King's first name? Robert King. Oh, well, him and I were friends back in school, so obviously he can't be corrupt like every other billionaire businessman, and I'm sure I trust him with all my life. It's like, what? Oh, M is literally the head of a counterintelligence spy organization who we have seen Judi Dench call people out, and she has read people. Her first scene, she calls Bond perfectly out in GoldenEye, goes, you are a misogynistic dinosaur, a relic of the Cold War. She reads him like a book, and she strips away all the romantic, like badass aspects of Bond, and she goes, you're just a dinosaur. You're a misogynist. And she's right. And it's like, she's a great judge of character. She immediately, in Tomorrow Never Dies, goes, yeah, Elliot Carver's sus. Like, she's smart. And in this movie, she goes, oh, Robert King was like my friend, so he can't be. And Elektra is doing such shady things. And she's like, no, M, I need you personally to come here for me. And it's like, okay, yeah, she helped her when she was captured, sure. But it's so obvious. And the biggest problem is Bond flat out tells M once he starts suspecting Elektra is up to shit. She's doing something, and M goes, no, you're wrong, Bond. And I'm like, and I'm sorry, I like for my M to be capable and to be able to do shit on her own. Having her locked behind a cell and just screaming, Bond, as he's running up the stairs to come save her. Like, M's no damsel in distress, as we see in Skyfall, all right? She can be in danger, but she's not gonna be stupid. That's my biggest problem. Why this has gone down a little. You don't misuse Judi Dench. I love seeing more of Judi Dench, but I don't like how she's used in this movie.
See, that I never would have thought of that until you mentioned it. Thanks for ruining it.
Yeah, and also I know you're going to disagree with me on this. I love Robbie Coltrane, R.I.P., but you completely changed his character from GoldenEye. And I don't appreciate it.
There's no Jack Wade.
Jack Wade is whatever, but Valentin Sukovsky.
The Felix replacement. I hate that.
Valentin Sukovsky shouldn't be a buddy of Bond. He's an enemy of Bond. Why is he best friends with Bond? Why is he running a caviar place and a casino? He's a. What happened to Elena in the club? What happened to that, Valentin, the mobster?
I will give this movie credit where credit is due. Because I mean, you easily could have switched this with Tomorrow Never Dies. Like, you could have had this come out in 97, Tomorrow Never Dies come out in 99, which probably would have been, more relevant. Like, they could have beat the bush over the head a little bit more, where it's like, oh, like, more technology, like the computers aren't going to be able to read the year 2000. Like, you would have thought that they would have beat that over the bush a little bit more, but they didn't. And that's what I really, really appreciate about, I'm not saying it was a bad idea to do in the first place, but that's what I appreciate a lot about The World's Not Enough, where it's like they could have went down the same route Tomorrow Never Dies did, and they didn't.
Well, Tomorrow Never Dies, I don't think really struck the Y2K thing either. I think that was about
with the technology and like media moguls and all that,
Yeah, you could have, but Tomorrow Never Dies just did that. Why would World's Not Enough do it again? Um, yeah, I don't know. This one I enjoy it, but it doesn't hit all the right notes that it should. And like I was saying earlier, I don't think the action ever reaches the
Hard,
pre-title sequence ever again.
hard, bro. No, but like I still think it's really good action. I like the action in this movie more than Tomorrow Never Dies. You know, I not again not to compare the two. I have
Seems
more.
like you're comparing the two a lot.
I'm trying not to because there is action in Tomorrow Never Dies that I like. Like I really like the car chase, but that's really about it. I mean, the motorcycle stunt in Tomorrow Never Dies is great, where they slide under the helicopter and they jump over the helicopter. The rest of that action scene, I really don't care about. There's just I like helicopters with buzzsaws on them. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, see that stuff doesn't work for me. I don't. A lot of it's
I
just.
don't know what to tell you. Like that works more for me than Bond remote controlling a car. And
I highly
I
disagree.
even love that sequence, you know.
Highly disagree.
I don't know what it is, you know.
A spy having a spy car is fine. Henchmen having helicopters with buzzsaws running like 20 feet below them is dumb. It belongs in Octopussy.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say
it belongs in Octopussy. It does not belong in World's Not Enough. Anywho, getting away from World's Not Enough, number 15 on my list.
License to Kill.
You think License to Kill is number 14?
No, are you on 15? No, yeah, 14. Yeah.
14, Alex, is There's Just No Time to Die.
Okay, you know, I mean, it's top 3 for me, but
I know that's big discrepancy.
I can't argue though with anybody who has it in the middle or at the bottom, as long as the reasons are justified. And when you did you finish it last night when you rewatched it again?
I rewatched it again, yeah.
Okay.
I was hoping, I'm like, let's see if this goes up, because I watched it at the beginning of my rewatch, just like beforehand, and then after I rewatched everything, after I watched Spectre, I went, I feel like I need to rewatch No Time to Die.
Yeah, because it ties in to all 5.
It just feels like
I get it. You know, I get it. As long as the reasons and how we were discussing it, your reasons were just. If you were just like, I hate this movie because Bond dies and Bond dies, like, give me reasons why you don't like Bond dies.
I don't like that Bond dies.
But exactly, but the reasons you gave me are justified, and that's the thing. Like, I'm okay with Bond dying. Like, I remember sitting in the theater as it was happening, I was like, they're actually gonna fucking do this. Like, it works for me, but it's not like that thing with Luke Skywalker where I'm like, you think Luke Skywalker's out of character in The Last Jedi? You're wrong, and you don't know how to analyze movies with this. I'm like, okay, you don't like that Bond dies, and your reasons are justified? I get it. +2, this is the Bond movie that probably takes the most risks, and because it does, it's the most polarizing, I think.
Let me get into my spiel on this.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
No Time to Die. Phenomenal action sequences, high energy, well shot. Yeah. I love it's a beautiful looking movie.
Yeah.
Daniel Craig gives a great performance. There's a lot of interesting developments for his character. Love seeing Felix again. Ana de Armas kicks ass.
Yeah.
Lashana Lynch is great. There's a lot of good stuff. I enjoy the first chunk of this movie a lot. I think the first chunk's kind of tragic. What's that?
The first 2/3, essentially.
Pretty much until
Blofeld in prison.
Yeah, kind of around then. I'd say when Blofeld dies, this movie kind of dies. Even though there is no time to die.
I wouldn't say that. I've seen people say that it tanks, but I've seen it more. It's when you get to Safin's base,
which
I see people.
My biggest problems with this movie,
villain,
is Safin is terrible. I'm sorry. I've tried to see the good in him. He's a terrible bad guy. He's terrible. This movie would have worked so much better if they let Christoph Waltz have another chance to shine as Blofeld, redeem him, if there is any Bond villain in the history of James Bond that deserves to be the one that's responsible for Bond's death, it is Ernst Stavro Blofeld. It is not random new guy who shows up an hour into the movie with a weird face and being like, I'm trying to help you, Matilda. Like, no, get out. We're gonna have a beautiful home here. You'll get used to it. Fuck off, Safin. All right. The fact he kills Bond is infuriating to me. It is like, you don't deserve the honor. Ernst Stavro Blofeld, despite not liking him much in Spectre, deserved the honor because he is Bond's arch nemesis.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
Is it necessarily? I guess it's not going to really matter actually, because I was going to say, is it necessarily Safin like being like essentially he is the one that kills Bond? Like Bond, the reason Bond dies is because Safin injects him with the nanobots, and Bond's like, I got to sacrifice myself. If Bond didn't get blown up by the missiles and just died from the gunshot wounds, would you feel a little bit differently?
I would hate it even more.
Okay, that's okay, because that was something that was on my mind. Because like every time I watch that, I'm like, because that legitimately that's like probably the one problem I have with the end. Because that whole thing works for me. Like I get why it doesn't work for you. I can't argue with you on that. Like I completely understanding of it. But my whole thing is that when Bond's running, like after he opens the doors, when he's running through the missile, did he just forget about Safin?
Yes. He wasn't careful at all.
Yeah.
Jesus.
That's like my only thing with that.
I don't know. I like a lot of the movie. It's just the last chunk of it that doesn't work for me. It's not even just Safin. It's just the way Bond dies. And I don't mind him staying behind and like sacrificing himself to save like the people he loves. That's fine in concept. But the roundabout way that they have to get him to be in that position does not work. It makes him do stupid things, like not look out for Safin. Like it's just kind of like, I don't know, it doesn't work. And I like that Craig got to be in a more emotional Bond, or he got to have life developments, like he has a child. I like that part of it.
Yep.
I feel like it doesn't work in a lot. Anything related to Safin essentially doesn't work. I think killing all of Spectre after we just went through the hassle of bringing Spectre back, you murder them all in one go. I'm like, what?
I don't mind.
What a waste.
I think I get that too. Okay, like I'm not gonna agree or disagree with anything you're saying about this. Like I'm just gonna be right in the middle and like be reasonable, because like I get it, like I get why people don't like it. I think for me, like I've come to peace with Spectre being taken out, because I'm like, well, it's the end of this Bond story and we're beginning again.
They barely felt like a threat. They were barely a threat. We saw the organization in Spectre in a pretty good scene where Bond's watching the meeting. You see all these people from all over the world, and then Spectre wastes them, because then at the end of Spectre, Blofeld's there with like one dude in a helicopter, like, and then in this movie, Bond goes to a Spectre party and it's like, oh shit, he's screwed, and then they all get killed because Safin intervened, and I'm like, Bond didn't even defeat Spectre. Safin just murdered them all. Like, they brought Safin in as this guy who's like, he's way smarter than a world organization that is like full of all sorts of people.
I think that's kind of the point. I think Safin has a god complex to him, because.
But it doesn't. It's not believable at all. Like, it's like, where did this guy come from? Like, yeah, he tells you, oh, Spectre killed my family, Mr. White killed my family, and he messed up my face. It's like, sure, but like, Spectre was literally, according to these movies, included people like Raul Silva, who's a genius. They had all these people of that caliber, and they never heard of Safin. They never dealt with Safin. They let themselves get murdered easily.
His parents were the poisoners.
Yeah, it's just.
See, yeah, I get it. I mean, I wouldn't say Safin's a great villain, but I wouldn't say he's terrible. He's kind of middle of the road for me. So, because because like I was saying earlier, like when we were talking about Spectre, like I did not feel like Blofeld's presence was felt throughout that entire movie. Like in this, I still have that feeling that Safin could just pop up anywhere. You know, even though he's working behind the scenes, like his presence is still felt to me because he's got people on the front lines doing what he wants to do. Um, I get the motivations not fully clear, like the whole like people want oblivion thing. Like I'm like that's a little weird.
Also, like, I want to make Madeline in my family, but also I'm totally fine with letting Mathilde go. Like, like, oh, what do
I
you want, dude?
really think he was supposed to be Doctor No.
I mean, I don't think that would have helped. I think that would have made me even
Yeah.
more angry.
That would have made me angry because
Um,
you didn't learn your lesson from the last one. But
it
I
just
don't know, like
Safin doesn't work to me outside of the opening scene where he's creepy with the mask. But once he doesn't have the mask on and he's just like, I am about the plants and the poisons and the Mathilde. I'm like, I just don't like you as a villain. I think you're uncharismatic. I think you're not memorable. I think you don't deserve to be the one to kill Bond.
I get it. I feel differently, but like as I said, like any criticism against this movie, I can't really argue because I get where people are coming from.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have as big of an issue with Bond dying if it didn't just feel like a way to send Daniel Craig out and like
Yeah.
force a reboot when we don't need one. We literally Skyfall was 2 movies ago, and Skyfall set it up like, we're ready, 007? Yes, and whatever. And it was like, oh hell yeah, a whole new era of Bond. We have a young Q who's gonna be around for like the next like 60 years. We got like a new Money Penny. Like we're all set for like the next 50 years. Let's go. And then it's like 2 movies later, Bond's dead. We're rebooting. I'm like, what was the point of Skyfall then? What was the point of like? It just feels like we're rebooting just cause we didn't have to do that for like 50 years. And now it's like, oh, we have to because Daniel Craig's leaving. It's like you didn't have to do that for any of the. This never happened to those other fellows. Like, what the hell? Like, does that mean we're gonna have to get a new Q? We're gonna have to get a new N.
I think we're definitely getting a new Q because Ben Whishaw said he was done after this one.
Yeah, why? Why do we have to do like? Why do we have to? The biggest problem is that they kill Bond. They treat it like a big emotional moment. But if you wait till after the credits, James Bond will return. Like. So why did we kill him? Dumb. It's fake emotions.
Is it the worst thing the series has done in your opinion?
One of, yeah. I think it's a big mistake. I think it alienated a lot of Bond fans. I think it pissed off a lot of people. I think it wasn't necessary because we've never ever had to kill Bond before. And I think if you're gonna kill Bond, you have to do it in a better way than you did in this. You can't have
do it again.
Safin scratch his face and be like, "Oh, you're screwed," and like, and have Q be like, "Yeah, sorry, you're just screwed," and not even try to help him. Like they're nanobots. Fucking EMP his ass or something. Like try something. Like it's just. Yeah, it's permanent, Bond. I'm sorry. It's permanent. It's like just keep him quarantined for a while and figure out a way to save him. Like it's just dumb.
Yeah, I get it. I feel differently. You know, it's a movie that works for me on all levels. Like, I can overlook deficiencies in the script if the emotional core of the movie is as strong as it is in this movie. So I think maybe that's why I'm a little bit more lenient on like that stuff. But like I totally get it, you know, like I'm not surprised that smack dab in the middle of your.
Yeah, I enjoy a lot of it, but it's just that whole last section. I always dread it. when I'm like watching the movie, I'm like, oh god, that's right. We're coming up to Safin's base, and it's gonna be kind of like
Safin's base is awesome. I love the base.
It's fine. It's kind of classic.
Classic Ken Adam base, like
Yeah.
Ken Adam design. I love the base. The stairwell fight's amazing.
Primo's okay.
Yeah, he's a decent villain.
It's fine.
Yeah, the stairwell fight's amazing. All you have to do, Pat, is just turn it off after the stairwell fight, and just imagine.
Yeah, yes, Bond lives.
Yeah,
he shuts off everything and he lives. He opens up all the stuff and we're good.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you gotta do.
Yeah, it's enjoyable, but it just never. I don't love it.
I will agree that I think it does raise a lot of questions about the future. I agree with that. I also think now, since you killed Bond, I'm not gonna, I know it's controversial with you. Not saying the next actor, not saying the one after the next actor. Maybe 20 years, 25 years down the line, I think you have to kill Bond again just to be like,
No.
well,
Why?
I don't, because I don't want Daniel Craig to be the only Bond to die. Like,
That's on them. All right, that was
yeah,
Bond. But seeing Bond die once pissed people off enough. So watching him die to force a reboot again, like why? You went
yeah,
from 1960 what 362
yeah,
to 2006. There was never a reboot, and then from 1962 to 2022, 21, whatever, he never died.
yeah.
Why did that was part of the Bond is escapism fun. I shouldn't have to watch him die. If it was a fake out Dark Knight Rises death, sure, you only live twice. That would have been a fun way to end this movie. He shows up at like a cafe in Italy and he's like, "You only live twice." Like that would have been like, I'm like, yeah, but instead they're like, "We have all the time." I'm like, I get it, you're stealing from Honor Majesty's Secret Service.
Yeah. Which is what I liked. I was like, this is a remake of Honor Majesty's Secret Service, and I think it's a better version of Honor Majesty's Secret Service.
It is not a remake of Honor Majesty's Secret Service. The movie ends with Bond alive.
But that's just my opinion. Yeah, I get it. Like, I'm also in that camp where it's like, is this going to be remembered as the one where Bond had a child, or the one where Bond died because he had a child?
We should probably move down the list. We've spent the last half hour talking about 2 movies.
Sure, yeah, let's do it. Yeah, because that's a whole different video for another day. Yeah. So what was that? 14?
Yep, my number 13. What do you think?
You got a license to? No, actually, no. Majesties.
It's Dr. No.
Is that what? Is that low?
Yes, it is.
Is that low?
Dr. No is a good movie. It's a great first Bond movie. My thing with Dr. No is that because it's the first and the original and the maiden voyage of Bond, it doesn't really have a lot of the things that I love about Bond yet. It has Sean Connery hasn't quite found Bond yet. He's great in the role, but it's not the Bond I love. It's kind of a forgettable movie to me for that reason. There's a lot of iconic moments, obviously, but it just doesn't quite have what I love yet. And it's not really a problem with the movie. It's just as a personal enjoyment.
It's like
one.
I get it. Yeah,
that's not one I go back to a lot because
it's essentially a trial run. Yeah, I get it.
It's fine. It's a good Bond movie. It's just not. It hasn't quite got the stuff I love yet.
I think it had the blueprints, and then I think that's why I like it a little bit more, because it set the blueprints. I think, even though it doesn't have everything, like you had the iconic gun barrel at the beginning that opened all but 3 Bond movies when it should have been only 2, because it could have fit at the beginning of Quantum. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, you have like the Bond, James Bond line, like you have the classic villain layer. So the blueprints were there, but yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's essentially like a trial run. It's more like, let's see if this thing is successful, and then we'll make more.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
Yep.
Number 12. What are you thinking?
License.
Honor Majesty's Secret Service.
Okay.
Which has gone way up in my rankings.
Yeah.
As a kid, I wrote this movie off because I'm like George Lazenby, which I think is unfair to this movie.
But
I think you need a good Bond in the Bond movie, obviously. But I think the rest of this movie is so strong that it actually balances out the fact that George Lazenby isn't a great actor and he's not a great Bond. And I would have it higher if it was a different Bond. If it wasn't Lazenby, this would be higher. But I also can't put this towards the bottom because it's a good movie and it's way different than most Bond movies. It's unique.
I agree. It just aspects of it don't work for me. And like, I love Diana Rigg. I love Tracy DiVincenzo. But the Bond and Tracy love story falls flat to me every time I watch it because it doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel like Bond and Vesper, you know? Like,
well, I think that's tough. I think you can't compare it to Bond and Vesper. Exactly. Bond and Vesper came in 2006.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I think the problem I have with it too is it's like you're trying to convince me that these two are falling in love, through a love montage, and
I disagree. I don't think
And-
that's when they try to
and-
convince you.
and she doesn't even like Bond. Like they're like Bond is forced to marry her because Drago says so.
Most women in Bond movies don't like Bond and still end up with him. So why is that a problem with this movie?
I guess it's not necessarily that, but like it's
She
more
is right to resent Bond because there's an arranged marriage happening and she's not okay with it.
Yeah,
at
that's the
first.
thing. Like
That's a good reason.
It's more so the arranged marriage and like Draco being like, "Hey, I'll help you, but you have to marry my daughter."
I think
I'm like, what if Bond doesn't want to?
I think that you're mistaken with you thinking that the montage is when they try to make you believe they fall in love. I don't think it's the montage. I think the montage is showing that they spent time together. I think the moments they're trying to tell you these two fall in love are the quiet moments that never happen in any other Bond movie until Vesper, where they're just hiding out in a barn in the hay and they're starting to actually like each other. And they're starting to realize, I could spend my life with this person. Like, the montage was them being like, oh, this person isn't so bad, we're having a fun time. But, like, those parts are when I buy it, and I feel it. And then it's what makes the end of this movie so tragic. I think it's a sad ending to a Bond movie, which I think they do better than movies like No Time to Die do, where it hits because Bond is hurt. And they never really followed this up well because of all the Blofeld legal issues that happen after this movie.
Yeah.
Diamonds Are Forever doesn't follow it up really. For Your Eyes Only tries to, but it does it in like a goofy way.
Yeah.
And they mention this in other movies down the line, like that Bond was married. And I think this movie is so unique among all those movies, especially the Connery ones around that time. It does not follow those at all. I think it's much more personal. It is a slower movie, but I think it's to its credit because this, unlike a lot of movies in the Bond series, feels like an infiltration movie. It feels like he's there in this guise of this not Bond guy, and he's slowly figuring stuff out through his undercover work. Also, Telly Savalas,
He's great.
the best Blofeld.
Yeah.
The best Blofeld.
I will say,
He is scary and dangerous.
I will say, I love the raid on Piz Gloria at the end too.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
It's a great agency.
It's just all very good stuff, and I think it gets shit on because of Lazenby, and I think that's not fair to the rest of the movie.
I've kind of been that way with Majesties, where it's like, oh, this is the Lazenby one, and maybe that's kind of what's clouding my judgment. If it is, I'm not afraid to admit it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, the last time I watched it, I was like, I'm not 100% a fan of Bond being forced to marry her, even if the chemistry is there.
He's not forced to, though. That's the beginning of the movie. He proposes to her on his own terms in a quiet moment later on in the film, after she saves his ass, and he's like, this woman's badass, and she's capable, and like,
This is true.
I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe I just gotta give it another rewatch. You know,
I think they really went up for me. Like it's not perfect, and Lazenby definitely drags it down a bit. Because if it was someone else, if this was like Timothy Dalton or even Sean Connery, maybe this would be like a top 5 Bond movie easily.
Yeah,
easily.
Yeah, it is the one that follows the books the most. Like it follows the book to a T, essentially.
Yeah. I think it's pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, it's just never been one that sits well with me, but I get the praise for it. Where are we?
We're on number 11.
License?
He's got a powerful weapon.
Man with the Golden Gun?
Yep.
The Roger Moore movie that gets shit on.
Yeah, it gets way too much hate. And a lot of this is just personal preference because Man with Golden Gun was my mom's favorite Bond movie.
It was the first Roger Moore Bond movie I saw.
Yeah, it's very classic to me. We used to watch it all the time. Knick Knack is iconic. Scaramanga is iconic. Christopher Lee is one of the best.
Mr. Bond. We are the best.
We're the best. Like so good. And like even like Monsieur Scaramanga, if you kill him, all this will be mine. Like so good.
So that's why Knick Knack's amazing.
It's so good. Like, it's not a perfect movie. It's very hokey, but honestly, being
Flying
hokey,
cars.
being hokey is fine in a Roger Moore movie.
Yeah.
It's camp. It's what his era was like. Like it's fine. It's not a bad thing to be a hokey Bond in a Roger
Yeah.
Moore movie.
That's why I can suspend disbelief with the flying cars. Plus two, this movie, like Live and Let Die, has J.W. Pepper, Louisiana
Does have
State Police.
J.W. Pepper. You some kind of death machine, boy. Secret agent on whose side?
You're that secret agent, that English secret agent from England.
Yeah, Man with the Golden Gun. I just have fun with it. I think
so
it's a
much
fun movie.
Isn't it fun?
Yeah, I hate Holly Goodnight or whatever her name is. She's terrible. She's probably the worst Bond woman, even lower than Denise Richards. I think it's Christmas Jones. I think she's
Yeah.
awful.
Yep.
No,
Yep.
but Denise Richards is still like number 35 out of like 36. So I think she's terrible and brings a lot of the third act down a little bit. But I think a lot of the movie's just stupid fun. It's like, yeah, Bond gets captured and put into a martial arts academy where they're trying to murder
It's
him.
amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. Because that was the 70s. The karate movies were the 70s.
Exactly. I do think Scaramanga, like the villains are just so good. I think Scaramanga and Knick Knack are so strong that like it just brings the movie.
I
up.
love when High Fat thinks Bond is Scaramanga.
Yeah, like even the ridiculousness of Bond putting on a fake third nipple.
The ridiculousness of a third nipple itself.
It's just so good. Like it's a fun one for me, and it has a special place in my heart.
I remember that this was because when your brother got the Ultimate Edition box sets, I remember he was like giving my brother and me like some of the old like 007 edition DVDs. I think he gave us Doctor No, this one, and For Your Eyes Only, and this was the first one of the Roger Moore ones I watched. That's how I love it so much. Like Bond walking in to meet what's her name, Andrea Anders at like the boxing match, and then she's got a bullet through her heart.
Yeah,
you know?
that's the good stuff. It's
Yeah.
creepy.
Knick Knack pointing the gun at him. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yep.
Now we get into my top 10 Bond movies, Alex. It's been a journey, but here we are. What's number 10?
Let me see. What's mine? I am gonna go with Live and Let Die,
Yeah. Good guess.
which is too high in my opinion.
No way. It's I had it lowered for a little while.
Yeah, you had it in the bottom 3 for the longest time.
Yeah, and
remember-
then
I
I watched
remember-
it.
Because
Yeah,
I remember when I was like, yeah, I'm gonna watch them all. You were like, avoid Die Another Day, avoid Diamonds Are Forever, avoid Live and Let Die.
It's amazing what like 12 years or 15 years will do to someone.
I mean, it's getting there. I still don't love it. You know,
I love it now.
I remember it was in the bottom 3 for me, then it was in the bottom 5, and it's slowly creeping its way up. So maybe it'll get to top 10 one day.
I had this higher. I had this at 9 until pretty recently. But so Live and Let Die to me is a perfectly paced Bond movie. There's always something happening in
It
Live
is
and
true.
Let Die.
There's
There's never, ever a dull moment. There is something happening. And a lot of that has to do with its ensemble of fantastic villains. You got Dr. Kananga / Mr. Big, played by Yaphet Kotto. He is amazing. He's so
great.
good. His Mr. Big reveal is so hokey and hilarious. I love it.
I thought it was funny.
Jeffrey Holder as Baron Samedi.
Yeah, he's great.
He's not in the movie much, but he steals every moment he's in.
He's so good. He gets his own level in Goldeneye.
This is going to be a beautiful day. Yes, a beautiful day.
Whisper.
He whispers great. He's great. The cab driver, where are you? Where
I think his name's
Jim? Like, he's so good. Like, he's so good. Like, how's it going, Jim? Like, and when he realizes that he's in the same cab and about to be captured. So good. It's just, there's so much action. There's so much, like, intrigue. The opening with, whose funeral is it? Yours. Boom. Kill that guy. So good. Like, it's just so, and when I was watching it the other day, I'm like, this movie doesn't stop. It just keeps going and it's great. The alligator farm, amazing. The tee on the train, amazing.
How many of these movies are gonna have a damn train sequence?
There's when you watch a lot of them back to back to back, you really notice the train. No, it's such a fun movie. Even that moment where he's having dinner with Felix. Felix gets called away, and then the woman on stage is singing "Live and Let Die," and he's like getting lowered into the floor to get captured. The floor comes back up. The people put a replacement table and everything, set it all, and Felix comes back. Where's my friend? Like, so good. Like, it's just such a good movie. And there is obviously controversial parts of it. The fact that every black person in the movie is a villain is
that's pretty stereotypical.
It's not the best call. You have to also remember this was 1973, but it wasn't even good for back then, for that aspect. Those parts of it, I obviously think you could have at least made Solitaire, no, you could have made Solitaire and Rosie Carver switch actresses or something. There should be one black person in the whole movie that's a good guy. It's very wow. But besides that part of it, and besides Bond kind of tricking Solitaire into sleeping with him,
I know.
I don't really
that's the thing with Roger Moore. It's like I don't really like you because you're mean to women sometimes. Like when he's in Man with the Golden Gun, just slapping Andrea Anders around, I'm like, you're a fucking asshole.
Yeah, he's I don't know. Roger is very smug to me.
Yeah.
But besides those parts that I don't jive with at all, I love so much of this movie. I think it's super entertaining.
That's the thing. I love that it was a different Bond movie. I love that it played to a lot of that era's type of movies, like the blaxploitation. Because that's the thing. The Bond series gets trendy, so they do whatever's very popular at the time. It's the only Bond film that's is the supernatural real, which is kind of.
I love that. I love
cool.
it. Yep.
I don't know. It's just never one that really. I don't go back wanting to watch it ever. It's
got one of the best Bond songs of all time too.
It's top 3 Bond songs.
Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun.
That's kind of my problem with Live and Let Die. I do tend to like it more every time I watch it. I remember last time I watched it, I was like, this isn't as bad as I remember it being, but it's still kind of low on my spectrum. I'm hoping it goes up more, I mean, the fact that it was in my bottom 3 and it's made its way out of that and even the bottom 5, I think shows something. That the trajectory could get better with this movie. It's not one of my favorites. I like that it is a different Bond movie, but I kind of don't at the same time, but that's just me.
My number 9, Alex, what are you thinking?
Trying to look at the ones we haven't mentioned yet. That one I'm gonna say is License to Kill.
You got a license to kill. Think that somebody tries to make a move on you.
Total 80s song. It's amazing.
So good. Gladys Knight, love you.
Right?
License to Kill is fucking awesome. And I will defend this to the death.
It's so good. I do not know why this bombed at the box office and almost killed the franchise, honestly.
Because people weren't ready for it or the marketing wasn't good. There's tons of reasons possibly. But it's one of those movies where it's one of the least Bond movies.
But it still feels like Bond.
It works.
Yeah.
It's not like Quantum of Solace where it just doesn't feel like a Bond movie. It intentionally is trying to do something different and play up the Miami Vice.
Yeah, it's a Miami Vice movie guest starring James Bond.
But what I think works about it is that Bond has good reason to do everything he does in the movie. I think his revenge is justified. I think him leaving MI6 is justified. It works.
Farewell to arms.
It's just work. Timothy Dalton it's perfectly catered to his Bond, where he can just be angry and violent, and he's after Sanchez.
It's a shocker.
Yeah, like it
Like
just
that,
works.
I think that's the thing I love the most. Like his allies die, you're getting ganked even worse. You
Oh
know?
yeah, in this movie, it's got some brutal deaths too. It really played into like the
The
'80s
pre-
action.
The pre-title sequence, the last time I watched it, I was like, this is legit a great pre-title sequence. Bond
Yeah.
on like the fishing hook, like in the plane, like slowly going down, like in the air. It's amazing.
No, it's License to Kill is a really good movie, and it's got hokey parts, sure, but the villains as well. Like Fran Sanchez is probably one of the most underrated Bond villains.
Yeah.
He is scary,
Yeah.
but what I like about him
Setup.
is he's very charismatic. Where I actually feel bad for him when Bond turns out not to be his friend. Like he really seems to respect and like what he thinks is Bond.
Yeah.
And then when he realizes that he's been duped, I feel kind of bad for him. I'm like, you guys could have had a great partnership.
Young Benicio del Toro.
Benicio del Toro's Dario is awesome.
I also, you know,
He's like 19 at the time, and
yeah.
he's great. He doesn't have like a over the top distinguishing thing.
No.
He's just a
Scary.
presence. He's a presence.
He's just scary.
Yeah, he's just every time he's there, you're like, oh shit, like what's about to happen? And
I
just-
kind of wish that didn't happen, so you get Benicio now as a villain. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I'm like, I'm glad it happened because he's so fucking scary.
I would be too scared that he'd do something like Last Jedi nowadays, where he'd be like,
I also really love the Bond women in this.
yeah,
I do think Pam gets a little bit too much hate. Like I get some of the criticisms, but I think it's a little overboard at times. I really love, and I really have a lot of sympathy for her because I feel really bad for her. Is Lupe in this movie?
yes.
I mean, 'cause she's a victim, and she's a victim of like rape, sexual assault, and it's horrible. And so,
And
like,
every lover she tries to have gets his
Yeah.
heart ripped out by Dario.
yeah, and like it's the moments with her and Bond where I'm just like, Bond is like that calming presence for her, which is what I love. Yeah,
Here's what quite doesn't work for me in License to Kill. You shouldn't have had that Felix. I'm sorry.
yeah, because that's the one from
Live and Let Die. Like
maybe they couldn't,
17 years before.
maybe they just couldn't get another Felix, or they
In
just-
their defense, the Felix from Living Daylights is terrible, so I wouldn't have brought him back either. But
I always thought that one looked like Uncle David from like the 70s.
this Felix is just so like old timey actor. Like he feels like a different generation than Dalton. So it's just the way he says lines is so different, and like he's so over the top. Like I'll see you in hell. My least favorite thing about it is at the end of the movie, after Bond gets his vengeance and stuff, he calls up
doesn't give
Felix.
a shit.
He's like, "Hey, let's go fishing then this weekend." I'm like, "Your wife just died. What are you doing?" No, I think the strengths for sure.
Dude, the action is really strong in this movie.
The oil tanker fight is amazing at the
Great,
end.
Bond water skiing, amazing.
Water skiing. Yep.
Yep.
But yeah, the deaths are violent. But they feel earned.
Yeah, Milton Crest getting pressurized in a pressure chamber.
Yep. That was pretty rough. I love Bond killing. What was his name? Heller or Keller?
Killifer.
Killifer. When he hits him with the $2 million and he knocks him into the sharks, like that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I love Dario's death, like because
I know.
that dude,
so
he
good.
makes you hate him because like even something as implied as "Don't worry, we gave her a nice honeymoon," like that's fucked up.
Yeah.
That's really like dark for a Bond movie.
So this could have been the first R-rated Bond movie because it was originally rated R.
Yep, I can see that.
Cuts to make it PG-13.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that. And like Dario's death, brutal.
Yep.
Like absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
Fran Sanchez death.
I've always thought the funniest part of this movie is it Wayne Newton who's like, bless your heart.
Yeah, Wayne Newton. Yeah.
I don't like Professor Joe as a
Yeah.
character, and I don't like Wayne, but like every time he just says bless your heart, I just chuckle. It's hilarious.
It's a good movie. I think
Also,
it's extremely underrated.
Also, Q in the field. This is
Yeah.
the one with the most Q. Put
And I
this
think
to
I
good
think
and they did it.
Q in the Field in this movie works far superior to Q in the Field in Spectre.
Oh yeah,
Way better.
Yeah.
Way better.
Yeah.
Because it makes it feel like a little family unit in this movie.
I hope you don't kill Q.
Whereas in like Spectre, it felt like they were just kind of trying to do Mission Impossible. And I was like, that's not. But number 8, Alex, what do you think?
There's not many left, huh?
Nope.
I'm going out on a limb because I know you said, because it is considered one of, if not the best in the series. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say Casino Royale.
As number 8, no. Number 8, I have Tomorrow Never Dies.
Oh, you fucker.
Yeah, Tomorrow Never Dies is literally like every great thing about Bond is included in this movie, and it works, and it's fun, and it's high energy, like quick moving, but not in like a bad way, like Quantum of Solace. It's moving in a way where you just never get bored because there's always, and I know Alex gets bored. That's because Alex doesn't have taste. But Tomorrow Never Dies is great. It's got a great villain. It's got a great henchman. It's got another great henchman, one of the best, in Dr. Kaufman. I would argue one of the best Bond scenes of all time is the Dr. Kaufman interrogation scene. It's got the opening with the jets, backseat driver.
I do not like that.
It's amazing. It's an amazing sequence. What do you not like about it?
I don't know. Like, I just... Like, I like that it ties into the plot. Like, how... what's that thing that they have to get?
Yeah, the decoder thing, yeah.
Yeah, like, I like that. Like, I like how that kind of... I don't know, like, that's the thing. Like, it's just not... Like, even if the action has energy in this movie, like, it's not really a pre-title sequence that sticks out to me, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's classic Bond. I think he's on the middle of a mission.
Like, I like...
Stakes are high. And then what I like about it, too, is that they build up the Bond's appearance. It's very like, we have a man on the ground.
Well, I was gonna say that too. Like, I was gonna say that too. Like, I like because I like how they do it 2 movies in a row, where it's like, even though, because they usually do it when they're introducing a new Bond.
Yeah.
But with Brosnan, they do it 2 in a row. Like, I love when he punches the guy. The guy's like smoking a cigarette. He's like, filthy habit. Like, that's great. It's just the action aspect of it. I'm like, I feel like it feels a lot longer to me than it actually is. Like,
it feels like a 5-minute sequence to me, because it's like,
it's like, I think it's like 7 or something.
It's great.
But like
literally,
for me, like, it feels so much. I don't know. Like, that's my thing with Tomorrow Never Dies. Like, I love the car chase. The car chase is fine, but there's moments in the action sequences for me that I like. I just think
it
has
a
weird,
crazy to me. It's crazy. If Tomorrow Never Dies does anything right, it's the action. Like, it's one of the best, most creative action sequences in all of Bond.
It has a weird effect for me, because it's like, it's always when we get to the point where they're in Saigon and Bond and Wei Lin are captured and handcuffed together, and then they're on the bike. That's like, it's always that point in the movie where I say to myself, I'm bored right now.
It's because you didn't get your General Chang that you're obsessed about. You should go watch Alex's ranking video, and when he gets to Tomorrow Never Dies, he goes, General Chang! And he's all pissed about General Chang, who's not even a character.
That could have been redeemed if they said the General Chang that they were referring to was the General Chang in Die Another Day. Okay?
No. No, but for me, like, think about the creativeness of, okay, we're going to do an opening. Bond's going to be in the middle of a mission. The stakes are going to get really high because we're going to go do something that's going to get him killed. And then Bond going, I'm going to escape in a classic Bond escape. I'm going to go steal a jet with weapons on it and escape. And then when he does that, there's a guy in the back seat trying to murder him while there's another jet that he has to contend with, and he launches that dude into that one. It's amazing.
I think it's also just the back and forth with M and General Roebuck, where it's like, what's he doing? His job. I'm like, can you shut up, General Roebuck?
Classic. It's classic, though.
You know,
you have to have a doubter. You have to have someone that doubts Bond's abilities, and then he does it. I mean, like, so good. I love that opening.
Did you know Gerard Butler's in this movie?
No.
He's like one of the guys on the Devonshire after the pre-titles. Yeah, it was like his first role. Thank God he wasn't Bond.
As Alex mentioned earlier, I think the plot of this movie is more relevant today than it has ever been. I think it hits something.
That's one thing I like about it. Yeah,
It hits something early on. It's well established what the plot is. It's well established what the plan is. You understand everything that's happening. You understand how this makes sense. Like this literally could happen. Like, and it's not as ridiculous as
that all happened.
like how many times in the Bond movies are we gonna see someone go, "We're gonna set off a nuclear bomb at that place"? Like World's Not Enough did it, Octopussy did it. Like there's so many. We're gonna go nuke this place. This movie's like, no, we're gonna go cause a war secretly. We're gonna pit two countries against each other, and then we're gonna broadcast about it because that's what the world does. Like there is no better time for media outlets than when there's a war. It's a constant story, and that's true to life, and it's true to this movie, and they play with that so well.
I agree. I just think sometimes it just moves a little too quick, like in those developments for me. Like I think everything's just kind of, and I know you disagree, but everything's just kind of laid out on the floor like right away, and I think I just needed a little bit more time to get to that, you know. But that's just me.
When you have a plot that has that kind of scale and needs those kind of developments, I think you need to lay it out quick because you need to let the audience like fully grasp the gravity of this situation. This isn't just, oh, this TV guy's trying to get news broadcast rights. He's going to start World War III to do that. And he's going to do it in a way that literally makes sense. That he goes, a stealth ship is going to sabotage shit and make it frame people for doing different shit. And then we're going to attack the country with missiles, and then we're going to make it look like it's the other people. And both militaries are like, well, I guess we have to fight because as far as they know, we're sailing in the right spot.
Yeah.
But we're not. Like, it's so well thought out. Like, it makes complete sense. And it doesn't have to involve Renard in a submarine going, I'm going to set off this nuclear bomb.
I get its relevancy, and I get, like, the sense of the plot. I don't know. It's just when you have so many action scenes, I think that's why I get bored, because it's just action scene back to back. Like,
I disagree though, because I think they always give themselves just enough breathing room, but while we're maintaining the intensity, because it goes, oh, Bond escapes, he steals the decoder and he escapes from the printing press. And one of my favorite scenes where he's like tripping out of the place, and it's like da-da, 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 and he rolls on the thing, and it's so good. And then he goes back to his room because he hears Paris is probably dead.
That's where I think the movie has the most breathing room.
Oh, absolutely. But the thing is, he goes to
like if there were more like scenes like spread out like that.
They are spread out.
Not necessarily that scene, but just more than like, okay, action scene here, and then like 1 minute, and then action scene here, and then like the second half of the movie, I'm like, okay, way too much action for me. Like,
here's where I'm struggling out. So he has the Kaufman scene, right? With great dialogue back and forth. He kills Kaufman, which is, like I said, amazing scene. Like one of the best written scenes in all of Bond. It has everything you need. He has the big car parking lot chase after that because he's trying to get away stuff from after all that, and then he gets captured for a while before the motorcycle chase. Like it's still he goes skydiving and all that stuff. Like he jumps down into the halo jump and all that. There's a whole section of the movie that doesn't have action until we get to the motorcycle.
Consider the halo jump action. Like it's not
he jumps out of a plane and falls. That's not an action sequence.
Yeah. I think it just moves. Like I get the energy that the movie wants, and like I respect that, but I think it just moves a little too quick for me. I think that's why I've never really gotten into Tomorrow Never Dies. Like as relevant as it is, and like just by the time like the 9th action scene happens, I'm like I am legitimately like bored.
I would rather take 9 scenes that are spread out than 20 minutes of action all together. Like by the time The World's Not Enough, as amazing as that opening is, I'm like, okay, I'm tired, and the movie never reaches that excitement ever again. They shot their shot early on. I'd like it to be spread out.
Yeah, you see, like it's kind of the opposite effect. Because even with like The World's Not Enough, like after I'm like, oh cool, like because I like, you know me, I like the ski chase in that movie, so I'm like, oh cool, yeah, we're at the ski chase, yeah, here we go. I like the buzzsaw helicopter action scene. I'm like, yeah, here we go. But this one, I'm like, okay, we're at the car chase. Like, yeah, here we go. And then after that, I'm like, okay. I mean, we had the cool stunt with the bike, jumping the helicopter, but the rest of that action scene, I'm like, nah, you know, I don't know what it is. You know, it's just, it's always had that effect for me. It's every time I go into it, like I said, like I was saying with one of them earlier, I'm like, I'm hoping I like it more, and I just never do. I don't know what it is, you know.
One last thing I want to talk about with this movie is Elliot Carver, played by Jonathan Pryce.
Jonathan Pryce.
The perfect balance of like
What do you mean
campy
we're up there? You're
but
fired. Get out of my
dangerous.
sight.
He's so funny in the movie, but he's also kind of scary.
Yeah.
Stamper, pretty solid, like big blonde guy. You know,
So do you know what they told him in his audition?
just
They were like, well, no, they were like, you have like 30 seconds to like explain like who you are. And he's like, I can do it in 5. I'm big, I'm blonde, I'm German.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it.
But like the fact I keep bringing him up, Dr. Kaufman does more in one scene than most Bond villains do with entire movies. It's incredible. It's incredible. I could shoot you from Skoda and still cause the appropriate effect.
No matter what, there's never gonna be like a paradigm shift on this between.
I hope you see the light someday.
Maybe I will. Who knows? Like maybe even if I don't like it as much as World's Not Enough, maybe it'll creep its way up.
I hope so, because good God, with as low it is on your list, that's insanity to me. Like you were talking about like, oh, people are crazy if they put GoldenEye at the bottom. Putting Tomorrow Never Dies at 20 something is insanity.
I know that there are people out there that are, like do not like it, but you know,
they're wrong too.
I give it credit though, because I do like Wei Lin a lot, and Michelle Yeoh's great.
Michelle Yeoh's amazing.
Yeah, she's great.
Like she's one of the most competent, awesome Bond girls ever. That alone was better than Christmas Jones.
I mean, Jonathan Pryce is like, you know, he's Jonathan Pryce. He's Governor Swan, for Christ's sake. Yeah, no, I mean, I like its relevancy. I don't know. It's just never one that, like, it's hard to explain for me. Like, it's just one that's never really stuck with me, you know?
Let's move on to number 7.
Yeah. Spy Who Loved Me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, well, that's probably the closest we've gotten so far, because that's my number 6.
I think it's the best Roger Moore one.
Yep, for sure.
I think it's a very classic Bond movie.
Definitely.
I love Nobody Does It Better. We played that at our wedding.
Yep.
At the very
our last.
Yeah, it was our last dance at the end of the night. Yeah, it's just Jaws is great in this movie. It's before he gets ruined by Moonraker.
The only thing I hate about this movie, I don't really like Stromberg as a villain.
No, Stromberg is not a good villain. He's a
like I like the idea that a Bond villain can do what he can do or what he wants to do because he can.
Right.
Yeah, like that's fine. It's just there's nothing really to him, and he's not in the movie all that much.
He's got webbed fingers, you can kind of notice.
Yeah, that's like it. But like he doesn't do that much, you know.
No, he's very Blofeld-ish.
Yeah, I love Barbara Bach as
Barbara Bach's great.
Yeah,
I like that. I wish they hit on it more that he killed her lover.
Yeah, I know.
That doesn't really get brought up
not until the end.
Yeah,
like, she's like, well, I mean, she's kind of playing him a little bit throughout the movie,
sure.
But like not as much as she should be. It's not really until the end where she's like, I'm only doing this because you, like, I'm helping you because we have a common goal, but you killed my lover, so once the mission's done, I'm gonna kill you. Yep. And then she never does, but
the Lotus is a great car. That whole sequence is amazing.
I love when they drive it out onto the beach and he just puts the fish out the window.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's the little Roger touches like that.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Spy Who Loved Me is definitely one of the best Bond movies.
I think it's the Roger movie that has the least comedy in it.
And also, its pre-credit sequence is just so classic.
Iconic.
That stunt is unbelievable.
I need you, James. So does England.
You get, like, every time I watch it, the breath gets sucked out of me when I watch that dude fall.
I know. Well, I always try to pinpoint when he opens the Union Jack parachute.
Yep.
And I never can, because I'm like, is he gonna like I get that feeling every time I watch it. I'm like, he forgot the parachute. Every time I
He's
watch
gonna
him,
die this time.
he dies.
My number 6, Alex. What do you think?
I am gonna go. I'm gonna say that one's Casino Royale.
Goldfinger.
Goldfinger.
Yep. It is a classic. It is iconic. It is the one that established what Bond became. It is everything everyone says it is.
Okay.
I love it a lot. I just love the ones ahead of it more.
Yeah, Goldfinger's really fun though.
It's so fun. It's
For
so
me,
good.
I remember seeing this because I was like, it was like at a point where I was like, I don't want to watch like old like '60s movies, but I remember watching it for the first time. I'm like, that flew by.
Yeah, it's a very good movie. Odd Job's great. Goldfinger's great.
Dude, the golf scene is like intense
The
for some
DB5.
reason. Yeah.
It's got a lot of. It's the iconic Bond.
Yeah.
But I enjoy watching the next 5, and I just enjoy them more.
Okay. So, do we just go right to your 5 then?
Sure. What do you think's my number 5?
From Russia with Love.
Yeah.
Okay.
Russia with Love. I think it's the best Connery movie. It's not as iconic as Goldfinger, but I think it is. It does what I love most about Bond movies, which is when they lean more into the spy espionage stuff.
Yeah.
I think From Russia with Love does that exceptionally well, where the whole movie is so intense because Red Grant is literally there all the time.
Yeah. Dude, the
Like-
pre-title sequence is great. Like where they have like this island called Spectre Island,
Yep.
and they're like, you think it's, but like that's the brilliance of that pre-title sequence. Like they trick you. They're like, holy shit, did they just kill James Bond? But it's a guy in a mask, you know?
Yeah, it's just training. But one of my favorite shots in all of James Bond is when Bond is standing off of the Orient Express, like on this platform, and you see Grant behind him, walking in the train, like he's just this shadow, like waiting to take Bond's life, and it's so good.
Robert Shaw just had that presence, man.
That like 10 minutes of him revealing himself and like their standoff, and then when they fight is one of the most raw, visceral fist fights I've ever seen in a movie. It's so good. So good.
I do think this is probably, which is probably controversial because Dr. No is probably considered the one that is what I'm about to say. I do think From Russia with Love is the slowest Bond movie.
Yeah, maybe, but I think that's to its strengths. I think it needs the whole like espionage part of it needs that kind of slow build up. Like this one feels more like a thriller than a lot of them do, because you have a villain just waiting in the wings, helping Bond not die at points.
Yeah.
And then you'll find dead bodies. All of a sudden in the train, like these two guys killed themselves and killed each other, and Bond's like, I don't know about that. And then as a viewer, it was probably Grant.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's a brilliant movie. Like, I mean, it's high up on my list too. I mean, it's at 7 on my list, but I mean, there's no way. If anybody ever told me that From Russia with Love was not a top 10 Bond film, and there were some people commenting on my ranking video, it was like, it's at number like 19. I'm like, you are insane. Like, I think
it's a great one.
Having Tomorrow Never Dies as low as I do is not as insane as some of these other lists.
It is to me.
So what are we at? 4?
Yep.
Or 3?
We're at 4.
4? That one I'm gonna say is Casino Royale.
Nope. The Living
Daylights. Okay. I was gonna say, which other one am I missing? But then I remembered Living Daylights. Yep.
I love The Living Daylights. It is
good.
One of the most perfectly balanced Bond movies between fun and espionage spy stuff. Like it's a Cold War espionage movie with some of the biggest spy sequences in all of Bond.
Yeah.
And it also has a heart and a personal connection. And his relationship with Kara is more.
I love this movie because of Necros.
Necros is the best Bond henchman. I'm sorry, move aside, Odd Job and Jaws. I'll get to him, but Kara and Bond have an actual relationship, like an actual camaraderie, and they care about each other. And I believe it. It doesn't feel like she's just like, James. It's like, no, she's like this woman who's unfortunately in the middle of this terrible situation that her boyfriend put her in, and she's in this awful situation. And Bond is helping her get out of it. And they're just caught in the middle of like this Cold War craziness with arms deals and spy shit and Afghanistan, and it's like drug deals and all sorts of like crazy stuff. And it's just this adventure, like this spy adventure. And I think it balances it better than a lot of Bond.
I got 2 words for you, Pat. Schmiert Spernum.
Yeah, that was all fake bullshit too. I love that. Like there's twists and turns in this movie. But as for Necros, I am legitimate and completely honest when I say he is the most efficient, best Bond henchman.
Over
and
that.
the most underrated one as well. Like, he works so well as a henchman that he completely overshadows the 2 bad guys in this movie, like, easily. Like, his initial breaking into the safe house is, like, my favorite sequence in all of Bond. Like, it's so good.
It's great. My only problem is like, it's obvious that they needed Bond out, so they were like, okay, Bond leave, and then
which is fine. But I honestly think if Bond had stayed there, they needed him out because Bond would have fucking died. Because Necros was literally the genius of that whole scene. Like the milk command goes by, there's a jogger with glasses, and then that jogger with glasses is wearing headphones, and you just hear, and then the milkman gets garroted by the wire of the headphones by the jogger, and then he takes over his position as the milkman, and you just keep hearing, and he pulls up to MI6. Oh,
where's the regular milkman?
Where's the regular guy? And he just puts on a different voice, and he gets in, and when he's in, they're like still asking him questions. They're patting him down. They're asking him questions, and he comes prepared. He knows he's going to take over for a milkman, so he brings exploding milk bottle grenade, which is, again, the perfect balance between awesome spy shit and camp fun. And it's just amazing. And he goes in, and he has one of the best fight scenes in all of Bond with a guy, Green 4, bless his soul. He is a legend who fights Necros and puts up a pretty good fight.
Which is crazy, too, because
he's not even Bond!
Yeah, which is crazy, too, because, like, you could have killed the entire like head of the Secret Service because M's there.
Yes, and he infiltrates them perfectly. And the thing is, all of those people, the MI6 agents, do their job well. They do everything right. Necros just does it better. Yeah. They don't act stupid. They act smart, and he's just smarter. And that's why he's the best henchman. He's not invulnerable like Jaws. He's not like quiet all the time. He's an infiltrating assassin. Necros is the greatest, all right? Because he's dangerous, he's efficient, and he doesn't rely on like Jaws' Wile E. Coyote invulnerability, you know? Yeah. And I also love the fact, too, that song, his thing is the headphones with the song, but the song is used as like a Jaws thing, where it's like not Jaws the bad guy, Jaws like the shark.
Yeah.
Where you hear it sometimes, and you don't see him, but you know he's nearby. Like when he kills, God, what's his name? The other agent, the Vienna.
Shit. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. He kills him at the carnival.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know it's right on the tip of my tongue.
Mine too. Yeah.
But yeah, yes. Yeah. So he kills Saunders. But like the setup for that scene is he's just walking around pretending to be a balloon salesman, but we know who he is and we hear that music. And then when he kills Saunders, it's in like the most brutal off-screen way.
And it also tricks Bond, doesn't it? Because doesn't Bond like see the balloons and he goes after him and then he pulls his gun and then the people are like, what the fuck?
Yeah, because there's a great scene where he's on the Ferris wheel and he looks down at Saunders and he sees the balloon salesman standing behind Saunders. And then when Saunders walks away, the balloon salesman walks away. So it's like just Necros is used as like this wonderful like buildup of like shit going down, and he's just an amazing henchman. And even at the end, when he doesn't have his headphones and he's fighting Bond, the score by John Barry is going like it's still the music. It's amazing.
John Barry was a genius when it came to the score.
And not Living Daylights. Like I said, it's the perfect balance of like fun.
It's got great action too.
great action. Timothy Dalton is underrated. He's
I know.
so good.
He's so good in this one.
He's so good. And people will say the villains aren't that strong. And like, yeah, Koskov and Whitaker aren't like the best villains, but I think they're fine for the movie they're in. I don't think they're the focus. I think the focus
I don't think Whitaker should have been the final guy though.
maybe not, but I do like the ridiculousness of Whitaker. I like his whole. I have all these statues of all the world conquerors, and they all have my face. And then I love his like diorama obsession with like wars and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And my favorite thing is his like big gun at the end of the flash.
That part's
like,
great.
I'm like, Bond, shoot him in the stomach. Why are we going for headshots? He's got an opening.
Yeah.
But
John Rhys Davies is in this movie too.
John Rhys Davies is Pushkin, man.
Yeah.
No, it's fun. I love the V8 Vantage. It's my favorite Bond car.
Yeah, dude,
It's like the Batmobile for Bond.
The DB5 is iconic, but there's something special about the V8 Vantage.
It's awesome. It's got the skis. It's got the lasers.
What? Salt corrosion.
I've had a couple optional extras installed. Like, so good.
I hate the look of MI6 in this movie, though. Like Q's lab and all that.
No,
I don't like the new Moneypenny.
No, I mean, she's not great. No.
Yeah.
No, but I love even like the little keychain gadget. Yeah. I love that. Like the wolf whistle causing it to blow up.
Bond gets poisoned in this movie.
He does get poisoned. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's good stuff. Like the whole movie's just a fun espionage spy movie, and I think Timothy Dalton deserved so much more.
He needed a third one, man.
He needed at least a third one. He was great.
He deserved. I wish they followed through on the idea of like, oh, like he was gonna go after his like old mentor in MI6 and it was gonna be played by Anthony Hopkins. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, Living Daylights it's high up for me. I just always have loved watching this one. Like it's just so fun.
All right,
such a fun movie.
Okay, so now we're in the top 3.
Yeah,
and there's only 3 left.
Yeah.
And I think I know what 3 is because I think it's always been your number 3. Is this Casino Royale?
It is Casino Royale.
Yeah.
Which I had it below Living Daylights during this rewatch until I rewatched Casino Royale.
And you weren't even going to rewatch.
I wasn't originally, but when I rewatched Quantum, I was like, well, before I rewatched Quantum, I'm like, I feel like I have to watch Casino Royale because that's like the actual movie that sets up Quantum.
Yeah.
Casino's just even if it wasn't a Bond movie, it's just a wonderful movie.
Yeah, like, that's the thing. That's what I love so much about Casino Royale. Like, you could take the character of James Bond out of it, and it would still be a great action movie.
And he's so good in it. Like, it was just such a breath of fresh air after Die Another Day.
I know,
like,
right?
It still felt like Bond, but a very different Bond. Like, the one thing about it.
Remember when we thought this was gonna suck?
Oh yeah. We were like, what? 11 years old. We thought
they were like blonde Bond. Like what?
Yeah, how dare that Bond be blonde?
Yeah, you stood where he stood.
But no, the relationship with Vesper. I think Eva Green is the best woman in Bond that we've ever had.
Yeah.
It's just so good. Le Chiffre is great. The poker scenes, even though I don't really care that much about poker, are great because they just.
That's the thing. Like you don't have to understand poker to understand what's going on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, it's just a beautiful movie. It really is. The opening credits are like my favorite opening credits in all of Bond. It's just amazing.
If you're not gonna do the gun barrel at the beginning, this is the movie that gets it completely right. And the way it's integrated into the credits is amazing. The parkour, like all the action in this movie is awesome. Like the parkour chase is great. Like I mean, that's like the peak of the action, in my opinion. I love the Miami airport action sequence. The stairwell fight's really great. In Venice with like the sinking buildings is awesome. I'll kill her. Allow me. Love it, dude. It's so good.
Yeah, Casino's great. So
it's just such a tightly plotted, like it's got the perfect amount of plot, perfect amount of character, perfect amount of action, just everything you could want from a reinvention of a Bond movie, you know?
Yep. For real.
Number two. Skyfall.
Yeah.
Because I know your number 1 is so easy to guess. Because you loved it your entire life. But yeah,
dude, I was so tempted to start this by going 25, World's Not Enough, just to see your reaction.
You should have.
No, Skyfall, I love. I think it has
So
a
good.
couple of holes, but I don't think those really matter.
Right. That's the
Um,
thing. That's the thing. I think most Bond movies have plot holes,
yeah,
but like it really
That's
just
Tomorrow Never
depends.
Dies, though.
Yeah, it really just depends. It really just depends on whether you can swallow like those contrivances and plot holes. Like Skyfall, like it's considered the best Bond movie, but it's like, what happened to the hard drive? You know,
Sure.
like
Or the biggest one to me has always been how did Silva know he was going to be standing in that spot to send the train at him? Like
exactly.
that's like what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Like that whole, but you just roll with it because it's so good. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What gives this one the edge to me over Casino Royale is that it brings back a lot of the things about Bond that I love.
Yeah.
Whereas Casino is great whether or not it's a Bond movie.
Yeah.
Skyfall brings back the things that make a Bond movie a Bond movie. You get
Like, well edited action.
well edited action, but mostly like Q,
Yeah.
Moneypenny.
Yeah.
The DB5 comes back in like a really cool way where I think it got overused in later Craig movies.
I did too.
I think it was brought back correctly here as like
I'll
an
see that
anniversary.
car for another like 10 Bond movies.
But mostly, I think this one works because of the whole relationship between Bond and M.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think it worked in World's Not Enough. I think it works brilliantly in this movie.
Yeah.
And I also think this movie dives into Bond in a more personal way than any Bond movie ever.
Right. Exactly.
You get to Skyfall, which is a very different type of third act, but I think it works.
Mhm.
And you also Silva, amazing bad guy,
Right.
like one of the most iconic Bond bad guys now, probably. And this movie's only 10 years old, which is also
insane, dude.
crazy to think about.
Yeah.
And the fact we've only had 2 movies in 10 years is kind of like, come on. But yeah, it's a great movie. I think it's a lot of fun. I think
It's an anniversary movie that honors what came before with respect. Not like Die Another Day. Like
Yeah.
it has those references. Like the most blatant one is when Bond like gives like the shrapnel to Tanner and he's like, for her eyes only. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
that's a little on the nose, but
or Q being, what did you expect? Exploding pens or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. But even then, I'm just like, that's not to the extreme of Die Another Day, you know.
Well,
Like,
what I like most about Skyfall is that it made me so optimistic about what the future held for Bond, which is why I think Spectre and No Time to Die kind of pissed me off in that regard, because it was like, we have this fresh new start, we're all ready to go, and then it's like, no, it doesn't go anywhere.
yeah.
Yeah, I've always loved Skyfall. I think it's a great movie.
Yeah, it's
Beautifully shot. Sam Mendes cared back then. He didn't care.
He wasn't asleep. Yeah, and like there was like so much like controversy like surrounding the movie too. Like, oh, he's like eliminating the action scenes for character. I'm like, no, because like this movie doesn't need a shit ton of action scenes. Like, it's a thriller. Like, it reminds me of GoldenEye, honestly, because GoldenEye didn't have a shit ton of action either. Like, the best Bond movies to me are the ones that act more like action thrillers rather than straightforward action movies. You know?
Right.
Yeah, and Skyfall did it. Like, the court, like, I've seen people be like, well, the action's not that exciting. I'm like, yeah, but like the action relies more like on tension. Like, I get the action scenes in this movie peak with the pre-title sequence,
Yeah.
but like Bond chasing Silva through the subway and like the courtroom shootout has slowly become one of my favorite Bond
Oh yeah,
scenes.
it's super intense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's mostly when like they do like the slow-mo and then like Mallory gets shot and then but you just see Bond running and then when he gets into the courtroom and it's like and he kicks the door open, I'm like, here we go, bitch. Like, let's do this. Yeah. It's so good.
So the grand finale, my number one, the obvious number one.
Yeah, how did I know? Because it's
the best Bond movie. It always will be.
Yeah.
There's nothing that could beat it.
No, you're just saying this because of Sean Bean.
No, it's literally the best. It's literally the best.
No, I know. I remember back in the day, though, you were like, this is the best one because of Sean Bean.
I mean, he's the best bad guy in all of Bond. So.
Well, because they made the bad guy, like, it's a smart idea. Like, having the bad guy be a fellow 00 agent. So it's like, Bond, like, he knows Bond's tricks. It's like, oh, you can't...
Every single thing Bond knows and is trained to do, Alec Trevelyan is also trained to do.
That's
it's
what makes,
so
that's
good.
That's what makes it so good.
He's a great villain, but the movie itself is such a perfect like post Cold War movie of like what is Bond after the Cold War.
And this movie had to make a statement, and it did.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
I
Because
just think it's superior to it's leagues above every other Pierce movie because it's not a movie catered to Pierce Brosnan.
right, it feels like a Dalton movie,
It
doesn't it?
feels like a Dalton movie, and it feels like a movie that is more leaning into the spy aspect of
Yeah,
things.
which I love.
The like in thriller, the intensity of like Bond just going around trying to figure out, the Yanis stuff, the stolen helicopter, like, and people brag on the score for this movie, and like, yes, it's of its
I
time.
used to, but it's really.
How? It's so good.
I
It's
know,
so
it's like, at
different,
this
but
point,
it's
like
so
at this
good.
at this point, I can't anymore. It's too iconic.
Like, I don't know. It's just.
I mean, I think it does say something where it's like they couldn't use the guy's original score during the tank chase, and they have John Barry come in and do it. But other than that, I like the score is perfect. I love like it's just that like.
I just think it feels cold,
Yeah,
which I like because the whole movie's like this like post Cold War. What does Bond mean? What does Bond mean?
exactly. Like I said, this was the movie that had to make a statement for the Bond series. It had to be the Bond movie that proved that this series could thrive into the 90s and beyond. Because the thought of another Bond movie coming out after the Cold War, everybody was just like, why are they making more? Like, this is a thing that's best left in the past, best left to its Cold War sensibilities. Like, there's no need for Bond in a post-Cold War world, But, like, and I feel like everybody thought this movie was going to flop. But luckily, the reviews were good. It made money, and it proved that, like, without this movie being as good as it is and making the money it did, we would not be where we are today.
No. And what this movie does better, I think, that even Skyfall and Casino Royale is, I think it feels the more traditional Bond,
Yeah.
and it also every aspect of this movie is running perfectly on all cylinders. Like the villain group is phenomenal. Every single one of them are phenomenal. Whether it's a Rumov, Onatop, Boris, Al Trevelyan, they're all like interesting and great in their own ways. And
Speak to me!
there's like a personal, real feeling of like Alec is a ghost from Bond's past, from the Cold War.
Yeah.
Like the last time he saw him was like 1980 whatever,
86,
and like
yeah,
and like that opening feels like a Dalton movie. Like it just feels like
Alec, there's a drop.
And you have this whole beautiful sequence where Bond is standing among the ruins of all these statues from the Cold War, and then Alex shows up like a ghost, and he's like, "Yeah, it's me."
James.
And like the two of them are like, "Holy!" Like Bond is like, "Holy shit, this guy was my best friend."
And the thing that makes it even better too is the motivation for Trevelyan makes sense. He's like the British government didn't welcome my parents back because they were Leanne's Cossacks,
And they died. And then they used me as an orphan. Like it's brilliant. Like everything about it is so good. And you get to like Natalia has more depth than most Bond characters.
She is great.
She's been through some shit. Like it's really Valentin Sakovsky at his best, absolutely.
Yeah.
The tank chase, unbelievably good. Unbelievably good. And you get to like the cradle at the end, and it's like you get to Bond versus Alec, and you're just watching these two guys beat the shit out of each other, and then the whole end part where he drops it is just so perfect.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
he should have been dead on impact.
I don't care.
I know.
Him again.
I know.
No, it's always been my favorite. It helps that video game was so amazing back in the day.
Yeah, I know,
where
right?
I probably thought about this movie more than any other one because of that.
It's by far like I think Goldfinger from Russia with Love are by far like the most like iconic of like that classic era. But when you think of like the Brosnan Craig ones, like GoldenEye is probably at the top.
Oh yeah, for our generation.
Yeah.
Also because of the game too.
Yeah.
Like this is quintessential Bond.
Yeah.
Like, and I think Pierce plays it amazingly. Like he's still
great.
finding he's still finding his footing, but he hasn't devolved into like the Pierce of Die Another Day. Like
Right,
he's dangerous, but he's not like super quippy either.
right.
Like,
Dude, one of my favorite Pierce Brosnan moments. He takes his belt, shoots the rappel, rappels through the archives, hits the guy, jumps out the window onto the tank. It's amazing.
no, it's just a great film.
Yeah.
It really is.
Use the bumper. That's what it's for. Like, and that's the thing. It's so quotable too.
Mister, wake up! I'm here.
Yelena, take a hike.
Take a hike.
Stand by your wall.
Classic, man. The exploding pen, even the who would have thought a scene where a guy's clicking a pen could be so intense?
I know. I know, right? That's
Oh.
all right. So that wraps up the list. So I'll give my overall thoughts on the list. World's Not Enough. No, it's a good list. It's definitely a good list. I mean, a lot of the Roger ones were in the middle, which is what I was expecting. I was not expecting Live and Let Die to be that high. I thought that was, if anything, I knew it wasn't going to be low. I figured it was probably going to be like in the middle with a lot of the other Roger ones. I knew Man with the Golden Gun was going to be higher for you. I knew Living Daylights was probably and Living Daylights I actually forgot about. I was like, when I was trying to guess them, I'm like, which ones haven't we talked about? And I totally forgot about Living Daylights. No Time to Die. Yeah, I get it. Smack dab in the. I get it. I can't argue with that one. World's Not Enough should be higher. Just saying.
It's exactly where it should be.
I was actually surprised that you had Majesties as high as you did.
Me too. Rewatching it, I was like, this one's got a lot of great stuff in
Yeah,
it.
yeah. It's like I said, it's just one I've never seen the light of day on. Hopefully, again, like hopefully I do. You know, because I love rewatching Bond movies. Diamonds Are Forever jumping 4 spots was surprising. I still hate that movie, no matter what anybody says. Die Another Day, replacing it as your least favorite, not surprising in the least bit. What else was towards the bottom? What was
Quantum of Solace was 24.
Yeah, that belongs where it knows its place. It's trash. Yeah, I mean that's not quite at the bottom of mine, but that's definitely near the bottom.
Spectre was 20.
Yeah, that kind of threw me for a loop.
That's one of our biggest differences in our list is our Spectre.
Yeah, like I get it because of the action, but I'm like this is an actual movie that has an actual plot that I feel like does get a little bit too much hate. So that's why it's a little higher up for me. Because I'm like, I don't like, even though it is top 10, it's like I don't necessarily love it, but like I could still enjoy what I'm watching even when the action is kind of boring. I do like Bond's journey in that.
What did you think about me having 2 Dalton ones in my top 10?
No, I was fine with that because I think Dalton's fine. I think he's
when I was doing my new rating, I was like, oh shit, I have both.
I think he's an underrated Bond. So I mean, I'm fine with that. Like, and especially where people are starting to come around on the Dalton ones. I think what surprised me the most though was how low Dr. No was.
Yeah. It's one I like, but it just doesn't stand out to me.
That was really surprising because that's considered like a classic. Yeah. So I was shocked when you were like that. What was it? 15?
I think it's 13 or 12. Dr. No is at 13.
Yeah. So I was shocked when it was at 13. I was like, whoa. Yeah, because of like how iconic it is and like that people love it so much. So, I mean, Moonraker's at the bottom where it belongs. That's good. I don't get this Moonraker essence at all either. What else was there? I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, I knew Skyfall and Casino Royale. I knew they were in the top 3. I knew they wouldn't be number 1. GoldenEye being a number 1 was a given.
Of course.
Just for over the years since. If you were like somebody I didn't know, that would probably surprise me.
Yeah.
But like since we're family, you know, like, you talk about this movie like it's going out of style. Yeah. that doesn't surprise me. Tomorrow Never Dies being in the top 10 is a sin. I'm just saying. Should be right outside of the top 10, if anything.
Oh, should it? Move it up your list then.
Or at the bottom where it belongs. But like I said, I mean, you know, I think it's a pretty solid list. Like every Bond list is different, and everybody has different tastes in Bond movies. That's the beauty of a Bond movie ranking, you know. I love seeing where some of these were placed. Like, I'm glad like the great ones weren't near the bottom, because then we'd probably have some serious problems. I mean, but even then, like as long as the reasons were justified, I could probably live with it. Like I had somebody tell me Die Another Day is my favorite Bond movie. I'm like, okay, I'm not reading your list then. I'm sorry. But no, yeah. But like I said, yeah, that's the beauty. I think that's a big reason why this series is my favorite series of all time, because I think for most other series, everybody agrees, or there might be like a couple differences here, but like everybody agrees, like, oh, like the Marvel movies, like Winter Soldier is the best one. Mostly everybody agrees with that.
Yeah.
Whereas
Or at
like
least it's high
I
up
feel like,
there.
yeah, I feel like there's not enough to differentiate a lot of lists. But where it comes to Bond, like it's just so all over the place with everybody, and that's what I love.
Mhm.
Like even though I don't agree with many of the spots, like it's interesting to see where some of these movies end up on people's lists, you know. And yeah, some of them might be too high, some of them might be too low, some of them belong right where they belong, like Quantum of Solace. It's trash. I don't get this quintessence, okay? But that was fun. I'm glad we did that.
Yeah, dude, I didn't expect us to get into it as much as we did.
Yeah, I know. We
It's
had
like
a
a good half hour of us arguing about the world sound.
yeah, we got into. We spent 3 hours filming this thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so we're gonna have. So this is actually gonna be part of my 60th anniversary Bond celebration, even though it's the 61st anniversary. This is all stuff I was planning to do last year, but didn't get around to doing. So it's all gonna carry over into this year. We're gonna do a lot more Bond videos coming up because we're gonna make me a Bond tuber. So we're gonna do like villains, gadgets, title sequences, pre-title sequences, favorite action scenes, favorite cars, favorite Bond women, maybe rank Bond women, henchmen, villains, and I'm gonna have I'll have Pat on them, and I'll have another guest or two on a couple others as well. So stay tuned for those very soon. Pat, where can they find you?
You can find me on YouTube at Agamotto is the name of the channel. You can also find me on Twitter at this Pat guy. You can hit me up and let me know how much you love Necros, because I also love Necros. And you can bet that I'm going to fight for him to be #1 on that top 10 headshot list.
There you go. There you go. You will also find Pat's ridiculous placing of Tomorrow Never Dies. So,
yeah.
You can find me at my official website, alexmaddenmovies.mystrikinglead.com. All my social media links are there. I will leave my previous... At the end of this video, at the end of my title screen, I will leave my previous ranking that I did back after No Time to Die came out. I will put that at the end here, and I will put some of the other Bond content at the end as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex. That's Pat. We'll see you at the movies somewhere.